And I said to him on the golf course that day, I'm just worried I'm not going to make enough money to be able to support my life, you know? And he said, you are going to make 10 times as much money. And I was like, BS.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kelley O'Hara, and this is 1v1 presented by RBC Wealth Management. Today, I'm joined by two-time Olympic gold medalist, FIFA World Cup champion, and all-time leading USWNT scorer, Hall of Famer, and my friend, Abby Wambach.
What's up, sister?
Hello. And my surf buddy. Thanks for being here. I'm excited for this.
I know, me too.
Which is fun. Well, for the listeners' context, the reason we're sitting here today is because as I was going through the process of coming to the decision to retire, I couldn't really find many conversations or coverage around athletes going through the process of retirement, the transition afterwards, and even them reflecting back on it. And although we both were athletes at the top of our game and our sport, I think that the reality is retirement is just this big life transition and is very applicable to many people in many walks of life.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that it resonates with our listeners. And then selfishly, I just wanted to have these conversations because I'm going through it. And I feel like I have been asking people who have just their advice and trying to learn and gain some perspective. So that is all to say, thank you for taking the time and being here today. And I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm excited too, because, I've been in it for 9-10 years now. And
you have a lot of perspective.
I do. And I think that there might be some perspective that might surprise you and scare you a little.
Oh, great. Perfect.
So buckle up.
Can't wait. Well, to start, I want to go back to the beginning of your career and not talk about that. But I'm curious, when you started as a professional, did you have any idea of the timeline of retiring?
No.
Did you even think about it?
No. And that was I think a blessing and a curse. I think that unlike you, I never graduated from college. So playing soccer was the only thing I think that
was option A.
That was A, and that was it. There was nothing else in my mind, at least. I know that that's not factually true, but that's the way that I was processing it. And I also think in some ways that gave me a lot of push, to be the best at what I was doing. I think that, plan Bs can be good for some people. Plan Bs are not good for me. I'm
it's only this
and
this
because I'm not kidding you. There would be days where we'd have to do grueling fitness. And that is something that was in the back of my mind. It wasn't conscious, but it was I have to do this. And of course, at the beginning of my career, we weren't getting paid a ton of money either. So there was a real life thing that I was literally playing for, putting food on my table, paying my rent, and having the semblance of a life that I had as a young professional. But no, I never considered what my retirement would look like. It was oh, I'll deal with that then, which I think in retrospect, when I officially did retire, I was well, that was stupid.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
I immediately regret this decision to not think about it until right now.
Wait, okay. So when was the first time that it crossed your mind? I've got to approach this. I've got to kind of come to this decision, figure this out.
This might surprise some people, but when I broke Mia's record in 2013
for most goal scored,
something inside me really shifted in terms of what I think I came to soccer to do. And this might surprise you, but there was so much of what I was doing and the climb of the mountain and the continuing to suffer.
I know.
It's almost insanity when you think about it.
Really?
I'm in a place now that I can see it for really what it was. And it was this little insecure, this little insecure kid that was just trying to be worthy. And in my mind, the route to worthiness was, score the most goals, win the most championships, be on the best team, be the best player. I could be all of those things. And when I finally surpassed Mia for the international goal record, something very shocking happened, which was nothing.
Yeah, you were like, I did it.
Yeah.
And then
I just remember feeling like, wait a second, this didn't give me what I was expecting. And I think that you might be able to relate on so many levels with all the championships you won too, Kelley. Like, when you're in it and you win the championship, honestly, like every single time I would step off the podium, my first thought was like, I want to do that again.
Yeah, same. Literally.
Right?
On the field. Like anytime we won a World Cup, I was like, gotta go do it in the Olympics next year.
How long is the national anthem? It's like 2 minutes. That's how long I gave myself to be like, wow. And I think like it was a psychological unworthiness that I was struggling with. And I really, I don't know, like to have the feeling the night of breaking her record of not getting that worthiness that I was in search of, I thought, oh, this is just a big racket that I put myself in. This is just like an interesting, and I loved my time. I wouldn't do anything differently.
Yeah.
Except I think I probably would have gotten a little bit more in tune with what the needs were not, that I was not meeting. Those, the insecurities, that worthiness complex, like
where you were getting validation.
Yeah, because it was, I mean, a lot of this stuff is like childhood, trauma stuff. But like at the end of the day, I think a lot of high functioning, successful, especially athletes, yes, we do drive to be the best. And you have to ask yourself the question, why?
Yeah.
Like, I know that culture is set up that everybody wants to be rich and famous, and in our world we wanted to be the best athlete that we could be, but why?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's the same, but I there was periods of my career where I'm like, I don't know if I have it in me to compete like I have always competed every single day.
Yeah.
Have
you ever asked yourself the question of why?
Am I competitive?
Yeah. Because I've told this to my family. Literally, I think that you might actually be the most competitive athlete that I have ever played with. And like, what is the
why? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, maybe middle child.
But like, you're such a high achiever, and you went to Stanford, and you won a championship there, right?
No.
Oh, no, because you get the red card.
We don't talk about it.
And we watched that as a
Do you want to know something? You want to talk about funny or ironic? Championship, senior year at Stanford, last game, red card. Undefeated season, we lose that game. Done. Mm-hmm. That was my getting a red card was my last action as a college athlete.
Yeah.
National team.
Yeah.
2023 World Cup.
Oh, no.
Last thing I did in the jersey, hit the post.
Yeah.
Lose us the World Cup.
Yeah.
Or knock us out of the World Cup.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can do so many good things, but can go. It's like, to me, I'm like, oh, this is just the way that it was supposed to go for me in my career.
Well, that's cool.
It's a good story.
It is a good story.
But okay, I want to know, when were you like, I'm done. This is it. Because you retired in end of 2015, post winning a World Cup. Yeah. But like, at what point
did I know
ahead of time?
Yeah.
Did you know?
Right after the World Cup in 2015, because the turnaround for the Olympics is pretty fast. I went golfing with my agent Dan Levy, and he asked me. He said, "What are you going to do about playing? Are you going to go for the Olympics, or are you going to retire?" And I was like, "I don't know. What do you think I should do?" And the truth is at the time in 2015, I was on the downswing. I wasn't playing as many minutes. I wasn't as healthy. I wasn't scoring and performing as well.
We were hanging out on the bench together.
Yes, we were bench buddies. Yes. And I think one of the things, because, the World Cup roster is a certain number, and then the Olympic roster is less.
Yes.
And so
significantly less. Yeah.
And so we had just won the World Cup. This was the last thing that I needed to do.
Needed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did need to do.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, I'm going to get cut from the Olympic roster, I think. And he said, I think you might too.
leave it to Dan to be like,
I just love that part.
No, 100%.
Because like he was looking out for
100%
my legacy. And he wanted me to walk away on top. And that after that golfing round, it became very clear that we were going to start processing an exit strategy.
Okay.
Which it was a bigger deal than I really wanted it to be. I wanted it to be very low maintenance and low key, but it ended up being like
everybody wants to make it a big deal.
An ordeal. I did not want to make it a big deal.
Same
at all.
You said that looking back, you wouldn't have done it the way that you did. What would you have changed about it?
I was just, I think, lazy to the idea. I just didn't want to.
Of planning ahead.
Yeah, of getting prepared, of, taking phone calls, having meetings, discussing, what's coming. Whether it be, being in discussions with financial institutions to figure out business plan, whatever it might have looked like. I didn't have a single meeting or talk to a single person.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that was one of my questions. Did you plan ahead, or were you like, I need to take a beat and figure it out as it comes?
No. I put a lot of that work on my agent Dan at the time. Like I just believed that he was going to like handle it and take care of me so that I could keep working. Because one of the things that on the golf course that day that I told him is like, my only concern is like bringing in consistent income and having healthcare. Because as you know, when you quit your job, you lose all of that.
Yes.
I gave Dan kind of like the ability to do whatever. And I said to him on the golf course that day, I'm just worried I'm not going to make enough money to be able to support my life, And he said, you are going to make 10 times as much money. And I was like,
we love a positive outlook.
BS. In my mind, I was like, if I make the same amount, great.
Yeah.
So after that, I made a book. I created a book. I put the book out, and that was great. And kind of kicked off my speaking career. I've been a professional speaker ever since, which is kind of weird to think about that I'm almost a decade into that. But yeah, I didn't make a single plan.
Really?
Yeah. Didn't make a single plan. And when I got into it, I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Were you?
Yeah. Big time.
Okay.
Big time. And it wasn't until a couple of years later, still in this transition.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, but it does take you a while to
That's fair. I want the truth.
Yeah. To like unlearn some of the ways that you operated, because they don't all translate. A lot of them do. But there's some stuff that you're going to have to, maybe, I can't pretend to know what your experience will be like. But for me, I had to like spend a lot of time unlearning what it was like to be a pro athlete.
Yeah. You've called yourself a recovering soccer player before, apparently.
It really is how I feel.
Okay. What'd you have to unlearn?
Okay. So I think that the biggest thing that I've had to unlearn is the amount of selfish, narcissistic thoughts about myself. Because everything that you did
was about
everything that I did, what I ate, how I moved my body, how much I rested. All of my life was like,
yes. Yeah. And a lot of people, most people in your life were okay with it.
Totally.
Understood it. Made sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that was a hard thing to separate myself from, because like, yes, I still have to do things for myself, but I have a family, and that was a really nice transition, a way to transition into a retirement, because I had like this like immediacy, and like, I couldn't think about myself all the time. And honestly, it was such a relief.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's this subconscious mind around making sure that you're doing exactly what you need to be doing because you know everybody else is doing it, and
you're expected to perform and meet all of these things and hit all of these marks. No, I fully get that.
That was like a hard, because I felt like early days I was getting anxious. Like I took 18 months off from training. Period.
No working out.
No working out, because I don't know if you remember, I was like, I had severe Achilles tendonitis. And like, God, I just like my body, I was like, ugh.
You're like running around on your little stumps.
I'd go practice and then I'd go get into a boot.
Yeah, that's right.
So there was like a lot of time that I took for myself to just reset
and heal
and try to heal. And then I started to avoid mirrors at all costs. And Glennon hates it when I joke about this, but it's true.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you aren't healthy anymore. Like you don't even look like you were a pro athlete. So then I started to train for a marathon, blah, 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 blah. Long of the short of it, there is a recovery process, because I had to buy into the belief of every single team you ever played on. And the belief, and then bringing in this competitiveness and bringing in the work rate and bringing in the leadership and bringing in, the standards. Like there's so much that will translate into quote unquote the real world, but there's also some stuff that can hold you back in that this is the thing that you did for so long that you are certain that you were one of the best at.
Yeah.
And now you're going to go into many different areas of life, whether it be family, work, spirituality, fun, play, joy, whatever it might be. And I think that my initial desire was to try to become the best at whatever I was going to do next. And I don't know if that is necessarily the goal that I try to achieve every day.
Okay. Now,
I
want to shout out our sponsor for this podcast, RBC Wealth Management. For them, they want to encourage people to define what success means to them to help build towards the right goals, like what they're going for. And that looks different for everybody.
Yep.
And I think this conversation has shown that on the field and off the field, very different in terms of like what success means.
Yeah.
So in this moment today, what does success look like to you?
So Glenn and I talk about trying to define what enough it means to us. Because it's important that people, especially in the context of wealth management and finances, it's important to figure out what is enough and what is too much and what is too little. And defining enoughness isn't just about finances. It's like happiness and where you get your happiness from, and pleasure, and vacations, and time with family, and what you do for work or career or vocation every day. All of that is what, for me, is trying to keep in balance with all of that and in touch with all of that.
Okay.
So often we can get lost in our lives that because we don't talk about it, because we don't have the conversations around what enough is. And this isn't just about money. This is like, what kind of a future do you really want? And how do you want to spend the rest of your life? And what kind of days do you want? I feel like success is kind of a trigger word for so many of us, especially retired people.
Recovering psychopaths.
Yeah, like, because I was driving towards this like success model that was given to me, that it was winning, it was being the one on the top podium, it was being given the gold medal, it was, scoring the most goals, whatever. And like success is like, I want to be able, like, I'm not thinking just about this moment today. I'm thinking about my 50s and my 60s and my 70s. And my goodness, I want to have incredible relationships with my family, with all three of our kids, with grandchildren when they show up, with with my wife and with myself.
Yeah.
I think so much of myself and the way that I progressed throughout the game was I was doing this thing that I was really good at. And I was really good at avoiding myself and avoiding the things that I was struggling with or that I suffered with.
I think a lot of players do that.
Yeah, it's a really good technique.
Yeah,
exactly. To get really good at something.
Just
and
makes
then
everything else.
Nobody will question you.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody will question what's going on for you and like what are the things that happen in your life and how are you going to...
Why are you the way you are?
Yeah.
What makes you tick?
Why are you the way you are? In fact, we are that's what we talk about on our podcast is like, that's the essential question. Like, why am I this way?
Yeah.
So it's like, that is what we're all trying. That's what we were doing when we were playing soccer, trying to figure that out. So this is like, for you now have like been able to press the pause button on this big life, good stuff, bad stuff, hard stuff, complicated stuff, exciting stuff. And like, you're going to eventually find your groove, find the things that you enjoy doing. You've built a platform enough for yourself to be able to, my hope for you is to be able to do what you want now. Early on, this is going to make maybe the listener or watcher cringe, but this is true. I used to say all the time, I want to change the world.
Oh. To be fair,
wow.
Abby. You did already.
Yeah.
You already checked that box.
I know, but like when I hear myself say those
things,
it's cringy for so many reasons, but it's like, whoa, you've just had this wild experience. For 30 years, you did this thing and you, for all intents and purposes, did change the world. Like my ego was so gigantic that I just was like, let's just keep going and let's just keep changing the world.
Yes.
In different ways without really like establishing true like love with the thing that I just did. I think that we are predisposed or there's something about this competitiveness that it's like, okay, next. Okay, next. Win the World Cup, win the Olympics. Okay, I want to do that again. And it doesn't allow us to really appreciate what just was. Early on in my retirement too, I was talking to this life coach, Martha Beck, and she was telling me the story about a trapeze artist. Because I was like, I just don't know what I'm going to do next. And I was like really like struggling and I want to do something big because how can I not do something big? I don't want my life to feel less than that. I want it to be equal to that.
Yeah.
Like, these were all the things that I was like kind of throwing around. And she said, and I think that this is Martha, but she said, look, the way that I see where you're at right now is like you're a trapeze artist and you have your hand on one rung of your life and on the other is your future. Like one is your past and one is your future. And she said, basically all you're doing right now is just holding on to both rungs, just swaying side by side. And she goes, why do people watch trapeze artists? I was like, I don't know. She's like, because they want to see the tricks in the middle.
Yeah.
That's where the magic is.
Yeah.
And when she said that, like something in my body just like accepted, because I think that there was a little bit of non-acceptance because the identity of soccer player Abby was so solidly forged that it was hard for me not to see myself as that.
Yeah.
It was hard to know if I would even exist without that.
Yeah.
You know? So that's kind of an interesting metaphor that I think about a lot. And then Glennon also helped me so much with my recovery from soccer because I was so convinced that soccer is what made me special. And she reaffirmed to me, no, honey, you made soccer special.
Yeah.
You get to take yourself with you everywhere you go.
Yeah. And you innately are special.
That's sweet. And
it's true.
And it's taken me a long time to believe that because of course, why would I engage in such a thing? Yeah, I was good enough, but why would I do this thing for so long? And I think I did it for a couple of years too long, quite honestly.
I feel like most players do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a fear of money. I didn't know how.
I was going to ask what was next? Your reasoning behind staying in it longer? Because mine, for instance, I'm like, if I can play, I want to play. I love playing.
Yeah. That's so good for you. Oh my God, I hated playing at the end.
I know you did.
Oh my God. I hated practice.
You didn't even play club, I don't think, the last year.
Didn't.
You were like, I'll see you guys at the World Cup.
No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did that. I think I was afraid. I was afraid that my life would be worse. That it would be less than.
At what point did you realize I'm done? Like, not even I'm going to be done. Was it the day of, the day after, weeks, months? Like, did you fully process, I no longer will play soccer?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, but I was going through like the height of my addiction.
Yes,
during
I do.
that time. And that was a really confusing and hard time to remember everything.
That is fair. I was wondering that.
And so I don't think that I was processing any of it. I think I was avoiding it.
Do you think that part of the addiction was 100%. To numb
100%
going through that process?
Yes.
Or
and
transition?
I was going through a divorce. I was going into retirement. Like all of these things, it felt like my life was completely exploding and I had no idea what was going to happen. And so, I used alcohol and prescription drugs to numb that stuff out. And so to be truly the honest that I possibly can, it was the day that I woke up in jail is when I first started to process it and accept what happened, which was 5 months after I actually retired from the national team. My last game was mid-December in 2015, and I got my DUI in early April of 2016. So that was the day that I thought my life ended. And in fact, I think that was the day that my life really began, truly really began. Worst thing to ever happen to me, best thing to ever happen to me. So yeah, those 4 months were a bit of a blur, a lot of confusion, a lot of fear, a lot of avoidance.
So is it safe to say that you were not at peace with the decision?
I was not at peace with the decision. I understood that it was happening.
Yes, that it needed to happen or that it was happening?
Well, that it needed to happen and that it was happening. Because it was, yes, my heart was not in the game anymore, but I think my heart kind of took a slide because physically I wasn't able to perform like I used to.
Makes sense.
I was slower. I was in pain.
Yeah.
And when you're not producing and you're not able to play the way you can play, it makes you not enjoy it as much. Yeah. It's way less fun when you suck. Yeah. Comparatively
and in pain. Yeah, the pain
comparatively is to the times when you were great and flying and scoring on demand, essentially. So yeah, I mean, that was tough. That was like, and look, I know you don't have a substance problem, but I do think it's important to like be mindful and get into therapy and talk to somebody about this process and period of your life, because it is confusing and it is scary. Even if you don't want to say those words out loud, like at least talking about them with a professional. That's something I would have done day one on my retirement.
Yeah.
Probably 1 year before my retirement.
For sure. Yeah.
If I could go back in time.
No, it's definitely scary. And it's very unnerving. Cameron's on me about getting into therapy.
Yeah.
So I'm
going
to.
And I think that, look, like at the end of the day, you might not say anything important for, I don't know, 2 months, 6 months. But the act of having that on your schedule and the week or two, however long you put in between sessions, you're thinking about, what am I going to talk about? And then when you have the conversations, you're like, you start thinking, why did I talk about that? And so it's very benign at first, but then it becomes more intentional. And then it's like, oh no, this is an important part of my existence.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't spend as much time on this stuff as I needed to when I played, but more than at any time in your life, like right now, it would be the best money you ever spend is like finding yourself a good therapist to just talk.
This has truly been an amazing conversation. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being vulnerable and honest, because I do think that this is going to resonate with a lot of people. It's resonated with me. I'm sad that you suffered for as much as you did.
Don't worry, Kelley. You will too.
I don't know. I mean, yes, you're right. There is. I'm gonna have some major realizations as the time goes on.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to change or assume your experience will be like mine, but this time is it's precious.
No,
the time that you're in right now, it's really precious, and I want you to take extraordinary care of yourself. You are so capable of getting through like all the goods that come and all the tough and the hards that come. And honestly, I'm just like, I'm impressed that you were able to play for as long as you did.
Because of how hard I played, or why?
Not only that, but like knowing how much pain you have been in for how many years, and like the injuries and the having to come back from the injuries. Like, people don't understand how difficult it is to maintain professional status at the highest level for 20 plus years. Like, it's nearly impossible. Not many people can do it. Yes, what we did is beautiful in so many ways, but also it's brutal. And so that brutalness, my wife, it's her word, like, there's some unwinding that I think all retired professional athletes have to go through.
And it sounds like I will.
Yeah, give yourself some space to do it. And I'm here if you need anything.
Well, you truly were one of the best teammates I had and somebody I leaned on throughout my entire career. And I'm so thankful for that. And now I will absolutely be leaning on you in this chapter.
You're welcome.
So
in advance.
I'm appreciative that you're just one phone call away. So thank you again for today.
Well, thank you for having me.
See you tomorrow on the water.
See you tomorrow surfing.
Okay, great.
Don't be late this time.
Yeah, no, sorry.
No.